Wow, talk about a crazy sequence of events. We know last week we got that terrifying news about Lamar Jackson sustaining an injury, which made him leave practice and had us all on the edge of our seats in anxiety and anticipation for an update about what it might mean for the Ravens' promising season that we've been so excited about. Of course, conflicting news came about that, and in the meantime, the Baltimore Ravens took the field and absolutely mollywopped the Washington Commanders. But neither of those things are today's big news. Today's big news is bigger than either one of those. Welcome back to One Flock. I'm Rob Love. Good to have you back here. We're digging into all of that, plus my 53-man final roster predictions, because you know by 4 p.m. today, the cuts have to happen. Let's see how close we can get it to right. Time to fly, y'all. Let's go.
Let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens. We are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock.
You know you can't hear that without getting hyped. I can't hear that without getting hyped. We are just days away from the NFL season officially kicking off. I'm Rob Love. Good to have you back for this episode of One Flock. And we are, if you're looking at the ticker down there, getting closer and closer. Maybe we'll hit it today to our 1,000 subscriber goal that we have been thankfully getting closer to. I mean, the last episode, I think we were only in the mid 800s. And already we've reached up well over 900. You guys have been amazing. Good to have you here back today. We've got so much to get into, and so if you haven't already subscribed, we encourage you to do so. We're going to be keeping up with all Ravens content all season long on what we believe will be a Super Bowl bound season. And we believe that even more so because of the huge news that broke Monday. John Harbaugh confirmed Lamar Jackson returned to practice, and you know that is something. Jeff Zrebiec was happy to report a very short statement on his Twitter account. Lamar Jackson is at practice. Do you know what that did for all of us? You know what it did for me? Because all the conflicting information last week, you know the story. Lamar Jackson left practice early, missed 2 days of practice. The conflicting reports, all the reporters that were on the field, the beat reporters kept saying that they saw something with his hand, his throwing hand, is flexing it, and that after the injury where they saw him on the ground, that the remaining throws he made were more errant and looked like lame duck throws. This is what had everyone concerned, because the other report was that it was just someone stepped on his foot, and that this might be a foot injury. I will tell you right now, there was some anxiety. Now, you know what we all did on our end. We're all calling our sources and trying to find out something close to home. Everything I heard agreed with what Harbaugh said, but like you, when these kinds of conflicting reports come out, I too had a bit of anxiety. But all of that, gone, gone, gone. Today, we know Lamar Jackson completed practice yesterday without incident. Of course, these are closed practices now as the preseason is over, so we don't have all the detailed information about how that practice went that we had before. But the fact that Lamar Jackson was active and apparently had no issues is a huge thing. Something to keep in mind, too. We've all been hurt before. I mean, not even hurt. If you've worked out for the first time in a long time and you work some muscles you haven't worked, you're sore for a few days. You walk a little bit different. You move a little bit different. Lamar Jackson, as much of a superhero as he is, he's still human. So if he got his foot stepped on and it hurt, maybe there was some bruising, maybe there was some soreness, nothing of a long-term medical thing. But, I mean, if it hurts, it hurts. So precautionary method seems like it's all that this was. And that's what John Harbaugh from the beginning was saying from the podium there. And it seems that this time he was telling the truth. We know in times past, not that he's been lying, but, you know, there's been some not being so forthcoming about things that maybe the Ravens knew were more serious. And they're not the only ones that do that. This is a thing that happens in today's league. Everybody tries to keep stuff close to the chest, especially when they know other teams are game planning. But no longer do we have to worry about Lamar Jackson's injury status. He is good to go. And that means that our expectations for this season can now go right back to here, because that is the ceiling. We got some interesting news coming up later in this episode that we're not going to be surprised to hear, but I think it's really interesting that the national media is really getting on board with what we've been saying since the end of last season. I've been saying, particularly here on One Flock, as the postseason moves from last year took place and the Ravens were successful in keeping the heart of that offense together and adding DeAndre Hopkins, securing Ronnie Stanley with an extension, I've been saying that the Ravens were a Super Bowl contender, the Super Bowl contender, and should be the favorite since that happened. And of course, to see the national media jumping on the bandwagon, well, are they starting to get smart? Are they starting to see what we see? I don't see how they can't see it. But anyway, we're not really concerned with that because the national media, of course, is a narrative-driven machine, which is why we're all here right now, because we're interested in the facts. And the facts are that Lamar Jackson's back, and this is going to be an awesome season. And if you were a little bit on the borderline about how you felt this season was going to be, how can you still be that way after seeing the 3 preseason games that we just observed and the dominance? This is the real story. The dominance of the Baltimore Ravens when they didn't play any starters. The offense, the main guys that we're so excited about this team putting on the field, didn't even play. And the Ravens dominated their opponents. Many times their opponents were playing for at least parts of the game, their first team players. And the Ravens did not give up. This defense that Zach Orr is putting on the field, even with the rookies and the backups, gave up 0 touchdowns in 3 preseason games. 0. I don't care who you're playing against. That's impressive, especially when you think about that you're providing that type of shutout dominance with your second and third tier players. Some of these guys, many of them just now learning the system. Some of them, many of them being on an NFL team for the first time ever. What Zach Orr and his staff are doing on defense is noteworthy. Remember a couple of years back, everybody was kind of nervous when Coach McDonald left, and understandably so, because Coach McDonald had done an amazing job. And it was obvious that he was one of the great young minds. When Zach Orr first came in, there was a little bit of rumbling, especially when things started off kind of slow last year. However, for those of us who showed the patience, allowed time for the players to get used to Zach Orr, for Zach Orr to get in his stride, we were rewarded in the second half of last season when the Baltimore Ravens defense became something special. But when you see what's happening now, where Zach Orr has really gotten in, and we talked about this in the postseason episode. If you guys haven't seen that episode, it's right here. You can check it out. We talked about, are you down with OPP? No, not the old song. Not the old song. We talking about OPP in the Ravens defensive coaching room. Zach Orr, Coach Pagano, and Coach Pease. Or Pagano Pease, OPP. And I told you then, check out that episode. I'm not going to rehash all of that now. That with this coaching staff and Zach Orr at the helm, OPP, we got something special with this defense. And I think that's really what you saw in the dominance of the defensive unit, no matter who was on the field against them in the preseason. So I'm super excited about that. You should be too. Do you think it's going to get any worse when we get Roquan Smith and those dudes? Matabike? Cal Van Noy? Oweh? Marlon Humphrey? Kyle Hamilton? You think it's going to get worse? Yeah, it's going to get worse for the other guys. We have so much to be excited about by what we saw in this preseason, but it really gives the question at this point, what are we going to see past 4 o'clock today? Who's going to make the cut? That defense played so well that we have real questions about who we're going to keep and who we're going to cut, because somebody who played very well, somebodies, let's make that plural, is not going to make this roster. And as painful as that's going to be, maybe your favorite player, maybe my favorite player isn't going to be on there. There were literally 4 undrafted free agents that shined in the Ravens preseason. 4 of them. We're going to talk about all 4 of them today. But right now it's time to just jump off in and let's just start looking at position by position who I believe is going to be on this 53-man roster and how it's going to work out. You tell me, let's go through it. You let me know in the comments if I fall off from what you think or if you agree with me. Let's just go through this together and figure it out. First off, we're going to start off with the most obvious one. Hard to miss on this one. Let's start with quarterback. We're not going to have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. We're going to have 2, and I don't think anyone believes that Leary is going to be one of those 2. It got to be pretty obvious during the course of the season that he is not ready to be on the NFL roster, so he will be on the practice squad. Our starting quarterback, we know who that is, the best player in the NFL, Lamar Jackson. And, of course, Cooper Rush. For whatever you thought about him, he seemed to make some progress. His best game, obviously, of all 3 was the game against Washington, which we won handily. But, again, I try to bear in mind, and I want you, if you've watched Cooper Rush when he was at Dallas, he does know how to run an offense, a high-powered offense. His ball protection isn't as good as it should be at times. Throwing picks has followed him. However, he's our backup, and we're hoping not to ever see him play. However, he has shown as an experienced backup in the NFL that he can do that. When I watched him in the preseason, I had to bear in mind this guy is very unfamiliar with our offensive line. He's very unfamiliar with our receivers. They're unfamiliar with him. He's unfamiliar with the playbook. So that chemistry just really isn't there. And when you're talking about a brand new player to a team who just found out he was coming on to the Ravens, a few weeks before preseason started, what did we really expect to see? I think that as he gets more and more time in the system, gets more familiar in practice with the players and the timing is so big, timing is so big, especially when someone like Cooper Rush likes to throw those anticipation throws. He likes to throw those throws where timing has to be there because he's anticipating where the receiver is going to be. If he's not familiar with their speed or how they move, that chemistry is very important, and that'll come. That comes with time. So don't overreact. Cooper Rush isn't a starting quarterback, but is he a capable backup? I think he will do just fine as a backup, and I think that all of us are on the same page when we say we hope we don't really find out what kind of backup he is because Lamar Jackson stays healthy the whole year. But again, that's the quarterback room. Let's move on to what's next. Running back. Let's go there. Okay, running backs. Here's what I got. I think we take 4. I think, yes, that in addition to the 3 that we knew were going to be there, Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, I believe that this brother Ali did everything he needed to do to secure his spot on the roster, and John Harbaugh pretty much has already said so. Rashid Ali has made it to where his special teams play has made him become a darling to John Harbaugh. So when you have a player that can give you depth on the running back side, if you need it, if injuries bring that about during the season, but also even without that he can contribute on special teams, lining up back there alongside Keaton Mitchell, giving you a really dangerous threat on both sides of the field with all these different style kicks we know we're going to see under the new, and ever-changing rules of how the kickoff game is going in the NFL. This only made sense. So Rashid Ali, I expect him to make the roster. We will have 4 running backs in our running back room, all of them in the land of 53. Let's move on to the next one. Wide receivers. Yep, I got 6 wide receivers coming to the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to tell you right now that this right here, it shouldn't really come as a surprise. And the reason I say this is because as we look at this group right here is special. And what we saw in the preseason was a lot of wide receivers that did well. Cutting it down to 6 was difficult. Having this type of depth for the wide receivers is brand new, and I'm not mad about it at all. Zay Flowers, we know what he is. Rashad Bateman, the fastest wide receiver, 4.3 speed. Think about that. As fast as Zay Flowers is with 4.4 speed, Rashad Bateman, 4.3 speed, hands, separation. DeAndre Hopkins, do we need to say anything about who D-Hop is? Tylan Wallace, proven every time he's been put into situations in the game, including in the playoffs, that he can make big plays when called upon. Tez Walker, that's all I'm saying about that. If you were paying attention to any of the preseason, Tez Walker did everything and then some. He may be one of the truly special talents that is coming out. LaJohntay Wester, the return guy, showed some tendencies to drop balls and whatnot, but again, rookie. This guy did enough to make the roster because, again, what he was able to do on special teams. Now, if he hadn't been so dynamic on special teams, I think that maybe he doesn't make this roster. Of course, he was also helped by the fact that we had injuries that happened to other wide receivers that were competing for spots. But I do believe that enough was done by all these guys. You can expect to see on our 53-man roster 6 wide receivers, and I don't think it's even a question. Let's move on to the next group. It's not even a group. Fullback. That room is full with one back, and his name is Patrick Ricard. Patrick Ricard, of course, will be the only fullback on our roster and one of the only fullbacks featured on any NFL team in the country. But what a special talent. He doubles as like a tight end many times. And since we mentioned that, let's talk about the actual tight ends. I think we bring 3. Mark Andrews, of course, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kolar. Now, Isaiah Likely is injured right now. We know that. Had surgery on his foot. There is a possibility, and I'll talk about this later. There's one guy that some people are going to get upset with me about that I think won't make the roster, but could because it's so tight. But if Isaiah Likely goes on IR, I do believe that this player that we'll get to in a minute, that may be the way that the Ravens get him on the roster, by putting Isaiah Likely on IR at the beginning of the season. But this tight end room, best in the country, no question. Expect for Charlie Kolar, based on what he was doing, not just as a blocker, but obviously as a playmaker and being able to catch passes out of the backfield. Expect for Charlie Kolar to make some serious noise while Isaiah Likely is healing up. This is an impressive group that we have here. And with that being all the skill players on offense, I guess it's natural for us to go to the guys that are blocking for them. And this was an area where a lot of people had concern. There remains quite a bit of concern for some people, but I think it's a bit of an overreaction, because I want you to keep in mind that last year, the offensive guards that I believe will be on this team were also on this team. And we had the number 1 offense in all the NFL. Those guys are back. Offensive guards, Daniel Falele. Don't you, y'all stop talking about Falele. Falele, when he fails big, but there were several flashes by him that showed why you can see that the coaches are excited about him. He has such natural gifts. He is a very large man. And yes, he was a key part of that number 1 offense last year. He knows Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson knows him, and that chemistry is important. Chemistry on an offensive line, you cannot substitute. And these guys have been playing together. Andrew Voorhees, Ben Cleveland, I believe those are the 3 that make the roster. Now, some may disagree here, because we had Garrett Dellinger, who was a draft pick this year. I believe the Ravens right here roll the dice on Dellinger making it to the practice squad and not getting picked up on waivers. I think that because of how crowded the talent was and some of the players that you really don't want to lose, if you lose Dellinger, he's replaceable. But some of the other players that I believe will get the spot that Dellinger provides by him going to the practice squad, if they choose to go this way, and I think they will, those players you don't want to lose. And we'll talk about who they are in a minute. But for the offensive guards, Falele, Voorhees, Ben Cleveland, I think each of those 3 make the cut. Let's go to the offensive tackles. Offensive tackle, I believe that Ronnie Stanley, of course, solid. He's there. Rosengarten, solid. He's there. Carson Vinson, he's there. Now, this guy flashed big time. I mean, this is somebody that if you listen to any of the people who were breaking down the film so much good, promising signs about this guy. This is not a guy that the Ravens want to allow to get lost from the practice squad. This young man, because he's an offensive tackle, which is one of the most cherished and treasured potential left tackles, is one of the most just sought after talents in the NFL. That's why they get paid so much money. And everybody who's seen this Carson Vincent are saying he could become one of those guys. He's just needing the experience and the training and the time and the reps. And having that guy behind Ronnie Stanley is a huge thing. He will be on the roster. Now, Joseph Noteboom, he is our new Patrick McCary. Remember, Patrick McCary was like the Swiss Army knife. He's the guy that you can line up here, you can line up there, because he's been around the league for a long time. He's played so many different positions on the offensive line. Well, Joseph Noteboom is that guy. He's a vet. He's been around. He's played. You can plug him in all kinds of places on the offensive line, and he's going to be able to get you some effective play. So all four of these guys are making the team. If you think I'm wrong, tell me in the comments, but I think this is where we're going. Now, we've already looked at offensive guard. We looked at offensive tackle. Do we need to talk about center? Of course, some news came out earlier that Tyler Linderbaum, we may not have him for more than another year. That's another story for another day. Seems like he's wanting a lot of money next year when it's time to get paid, and the Ravens will pay that type of money. I mean, the money he's talking about, if the rumors are true, $20 million a year for a center. That's groundbreaking money for a center. But Tyler Linderbaum is the best center prospect in the country right now. I mean, the guy's everything he was touted to be coming out of college, and you can't blame the guy for trying to get his money. But will the Ravens do it? We'll talk about that later. But we got him this year, and he is on the roster. Corey Bullock, wow, young kid, looking good as well. We got this guy back behind, and this is Corey Bullock, an undrafted free agent. Looking great. The Ravens, how they pull off these undrafted free agents. Remember, Keaton Mitchell was an undrafted free agent. The Ravens have a tradition of finding talent in places where everybody's passed on these people before. It's really uncanny as we go through this, how many undrafted free agents really are making big impacts on this team and potentially could be doing it, I believe, on this final 53-man roster. But moving on from the centers, we now get to go to the defense. And why not start with defensive tackle? Nnamdi Madubuike. Absolutely all-pro. Broderick Washington, I believe he makes it, of course. And Aeneas Peebles, could not hear enough good stuff about Aeneas Peebles. Aeneas Peebles' name was all over Twitter, all over the national media. This guy is really, really, really making waves. And I believe he secured, without question, his spot as a defensive tackle. Aeneas Peebles, watch some of his film. I mean, just go back and watch how the hustle and the way that he attacked in the preseason, and you'll understand why everybody's excited about this guy. He is an absolute monster in the making. But what about Brent Urban? Brent Urban, of course, he's been with the team. The Ravens like him. He's a great guy. Why do I not have him making the team? Well, it's because when you need to try to hold on to the talent that you don't want to lose, the Ravens have shown a tenacity for being able to make these handshake deals with guys that they think won't leave, that they can just say, hey, we're not going to, we're going to waive you, but don't worry, we're going to put you on the practice squad and get you called back and, work things out. I think Brent Urban is that guy. I think, there'll be a handshake deal of some sort with Brent Urban because he loves playing for the Ravens, and the Ravens appreciate him as well. And when they have those type of opportunities to manipulate their roster to be able to make room for guys that they need to make room for, I think this is the perfect opportunity for that. So 3 defensive tackles making this 53-man roster. There they are. Now, what about nose tackles? I think 2 guys are what you're going to be looking at here. Travis Jones, obviously, no question. And then, of course, you have to know that Jenkins is going to be there. No question. Jenkins did everything that he needed to do to secure his spot. So both of those guys make the roster. Outside linebacker, Odafe Owe, Kyle Van Noy, both double-digit sacks last year. Tavius Robinson, finally healthy. This guy, remember I said this. Tavius Robinson is a absolute, if you listen to what the coaches have said about him, he's scary. He's scary as an outside linebacker, and expect big things out of him this year. Mike Green, do I need to say any more about Mike Green? What we saw from Mike Green, the rookie, in these preseason games, in camp, Mike Green has flashed in so many ways that anyone who wasn't paying attention knows his name already, and we haven't even started the season. Mike Green is making this. And, of course, David Ojabo showed some improvement, had some moments in preseason, but I think he was helped more than anything by Adisa Isaac having the elbow dislocation and being put on IR. And because it was going to come down between those two, I wasn't sure if both of them would make the roster. But with Adisa Isaac being out for the season, David Ojabo, I believe, has an opportunity to try and put something together this season. And I think he realizes that. There has been some noise about the Ravens may try to use him in a trade and try to go out and get Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know if that's true. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that I could see the Ravens doing something like that, but we'll pay attention. But for now, I do believe David Ojabo, you're going to see him on this 53-man roster. He will make the cut. What about inside linebackers? I believe that what we're going to see is going to be very predictable. And the reason I say predictable is that Trenton Simpson, who the Ravens have been loyal to a fault, is going to be on this roster. If they've been as loyal as they've been with Trenton Simpson to this point, they're going to continue to. And Trenton Simpson did look better, had some good plays as the preseason continued. That third game, the flying around, just really showing a lot more aggression in his style of play. Trenton Simpson, I think, gets the loyalty bid and also gets rewarded for showing improvement in the preseason. So you're going to have Roquan Smith, Teddy Buchanan. I liked Teddy Buchanan before the preseason. I like him more now. Teddy Buchanan is going to be a very valuable guy for us to have as an inside linebacker. But Jay Higgins, the fourth, this is where some people are going to say Jay Higgins doesn't make it. And the reason they're going to say Jay Higgins doesn't make it because there's a lot of people that say Hummel. I like Jay. I don't see how you could not put Jay Higgins on this team. Jay Higgins, as a rookie, undrafted, free agent. But my goodness, the guy was everywhere. He did everything. He did everything. Anything you would want an inside linebacker to do, Jay Higgins did it, and he did it consistently. Every time we saw him on the field, he was making plays. And I don't see how if you let him go on your practice squad, you're never going to see him again. He's snatched up. And I think the Ravens know that. Jake Hummel, Personally, I would take Higgins over Hummel if I had to choose. Not sure that the Ravens would do the same. I mean, what would you do? But Hummel, I think he'll still make it if, and this is what I was talking about with Isaiah Likely earlier. If Isaiah Likely gets put on IR, that opens up a spot where I think you can get Jay Higgins and Jake Hummel. So we'll see. But moving on from the inside linebackers, we go to corner. Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Jair Alexander, Awuzie, TJ Tampa. I had to chew on this one for a bit. TJ Tampa, you guys know, I think that TJ Tampa is one of those project players that his ceiling seems to be not anything that has to do with his physical attributes. He has the physical attributes, but he just hasn't been able to translate those physical attributes into execution on the field. And we've seen him underwhelm over and over again. And if I had to let some guys go, I would let go of a TJ Tampa to the practice squad before I would a Higgins. But that being said, cornerback room, you got to keep deep. And that's why I believe the 7 cornerbacks, with all the injuries we've already had at corner, I think that helped TJ Tampa a lot, because you don't want to lose that experience. You don't want to lose that depth. You already have injury concerns with Jair Alexander. Marlon Humphrey is older. He's had injuries more recently that he didn't have in the past. Nate Wiggins. It's a room where you have to have depth, because corners get hurt more than anybody else, it seems. So I think just by virtue of that alone and the injuries we've already stacked, that TJ Tampa will make this squad. Jalen Armour-Davis was amazing in the preseason. And Keyon Martin, I don't see how you don't put this man on the roster. Another undrafted free agent that is absolutely just wowed. Every time you saw him in the preseason, the man was making plays. He was everywhere. There is nothing, again, that you want a corner to do that Keyon Martin wasn't doing. How do you not sign this guy? That's the question I keep asking myself. How do you not put Keyon Martin on your roster? I think he has to. They have to figure out a way to get Keyon Martin on this roster, because he's another one that if you put him on your practice squad, that's the last time you'll see him in a Raven uniform. Somebody else is snatching him right away. Just incredible. So I believe these are the 7 corners that you will see make our 53-man roster. We are rolling along here. We're almost home with this one. Down to safeties. And how about those safeties? This arguably may be the absolute greatest safety room in the country. Maybe the best safety room that the Ravens have ever had. And that's saying a lot, considering a lot of the safeties that we've had come through this franchise. Look at this. Kyle Hamilton. Best safety in the league, hands down. So many people out there have acknowledged this. He's so versatile. He can be used all over the place. And notice what it did. He really runs our defense. When we moved Kyle Hamilton into that safety position and left him dedicated there, what he's able to do on the back end of that defense really changed immediately what our secondary performance was like last year. We went from being one of the worst to being the best at the last half of the season. And he really dials those guys in with Roquan in the middle, keeping everything organized there. The communication is just amazing. But you got a guy like Kyle Hamilton, and then you add to him Malachi Starks. Everything we've seen about Malachi Starks has been, this guy is the real deal. And you want to know how the Ravens feel about him? Notice in the preseason, what did he play? Like 3 snaps? I mean, this guy got the same treatment as if he was a veteran. So you know what the coaches are thinking about him. The fact that they didn't run Malachi Starks out there in the preseason for much at all tells you, hey, they think he's ready. Reuben Lowery, we saw plenty of that brother, and my goodness, it just goes on what we were talking about. The undrafted free agents. Reuben Lowery, another one. We have to put him on the roster. That's why I've got him on here. I don't think there's any way that Reuben Lowery doesn't make this roster. Amazing performance. Every time you saw him on the field, he did everything you want to see from a safety. His coverage was great. He was disruptive. It just amazing player. And we're going to see great things out of this kid. Remember, you heard it here. And of course, Sanusi Kane, he's going to be on the roster. So I think all 4 of these guys are going to be on the roster. Now, you'll note that someone that I didn't bring up, and I haven't said his name, I like him a lot. I think Bo Braid is going to be missing from the 53-man roster. Not because he didn't do enough to show that he's a good addition to our team. We just don't have room for him. We have so much. We have an embarrassing amount of wealth in this locker room right now. And Bo Braid, unfortunately, will not be there. But imagine if he does get to the practice squad and doesn't get snagged up. That would be something to have him there for depth. But the safeties, going to be awesome. You can see offense, defense, this team is so complete, and it's going to be amazing. But a concern that we had coming into this season was losing the GOAT, losing Tuck. We were like, what kind of kicker are we getting? And some of the things we heard in camp about how our guy wasn't maybe very accurate and didn't have the consistency. Well, Tyler Loop has laid all of that to rest for me. If you watched Tyler Loop, all you saw was a guy who, yes, like any kicker that you've ever seen, including the GOAT, can miss a kick. But this kid can shake off a kick, no nerves, come right back after it, and nail a 40-yarder, 50-yarder, 61-yarder, and send that thing all the way to the back of the net. He's got a leg like you wouldn't believe in his accuracy. So many times when he kicks the ball, it's right down the middle and so much distance. I think that what we saw from Tyler Loop was outstanding, considering he's a rookie and all these places that he was going to play. Think about it. He played at the Cowboys, and he'd never kicked the ball there before. He doesn't do any practice snaps there. But there he was, killing it from 46, from 52, from 61, and all those kicks were beautiful. I think this kid is getting settled in. I think the coaches did the right thing, giving him opportunities to make all those kicks in the preseason, because now you know his confidence has to be sky high, get those jitters off. We got us one here. I'm really excited to see what Tyler Loop does. And, of course, Jordan Stout, Nick Moore, they'll be there. That's our special teams. And wait a minute. What is this here? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Now, I don't know what the explanation on this is or how they're making it happen, but John Harbaugh has confirmed that Hummel will be making the roster. Hummel will be making the roster, saying that he's having some sort of hand procedure, but he'll be back on the field by Wednesday. Well, there you go. I guess that veteran loyalty that Harbaugh has shown throughout the years, again, is why Hummel's there. I wonder how they're going to do that. Does that mean Higgins is out? I hope not. Hopefully, that just means they're figuring out some way where they can keep both of those guys, because losing Higgins would be a real loss. But we'll see. There are some deep roster cuts remaining. There are 34 decisions that still need to be made before the deadline. And so that bubble watch is on. Will Higgins make the team? Will Keyon Martin make the team? Oh, my goodness. I almost can't take it. But hang in there. You know, we'll be covering all of that. If you got any value out of today's episode, hope you hit that like and subscribe button. One more thing I got to tell you this before we get out of here. This is a broader Ravens narrative that I thought was interesting. We teased it earlier. Our offensive dominance that is projected for this season is outstandingly and overwhelmingly being touted from everywhere that you look in all the media outlets. Check this out. SB Nation ranked the Ravens as the top offense entering 2025 behind Lamar Jackson and this amazing array of talented players that we have. The trajectory is great with this coaching staff that we have now. The continuity, it's really going to be exciting, and I'm just glad that we're here to watch it together as one flock. But Lamar's status being cleared gives us all the excitement back. All the energy is back. Any lingering questions about that, I think, can pretty much now be put away. The undrafted free agency depth. We've got to watch this closely and see what happens today. Hummel is confirmed, but the final countdown is on, and tomorrow we will know what the 53-man roster is. So drop your roster picks below. Is your sleeper player, is he going to be sticking or standing by? I want to hear about it in the comments. Who do you think is the guy we cannot let go? Do you think these undrafted free agents, like I believe, all four of them should make the team? Next episode, we're going to talk about what happens after the cuts, what our final roster really is going to be, what the matchups will mean, what we have to look forward to next for the season opener against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I'm Rob Love, so excited right now. If you can't tell, I'm jittery. One flock, you guys. Remember, if there's one thing in the world that this world will never be too full of, that thing is love. So you find somebody that needs a little bit more love in their life, give it to them for me, all right? That's how we do. We never fly alone, we fly together. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time on One Flock. Time to flock.
We take the field as one flock. Come on, Ravens, here we go as one flock. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Come on, Ravens, here we go as one flock. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Let's go, Ravens. Let's go, Ravens. Let's go, Ravens. Let's go.